Welcome back to Python for Beginners. So this time we're going to talk about functions. Okay, so we have talked about control structures for a few videos now. So we've talked about the while loop, the for loop structure, the if-else conditional statement. Okay, now what we want to learn how to do is modularize our program. So our programs are going to grow in length, and that makes them complicated and complex. And so what we want to be able to do is not only use comments appropriately, but modularize them, put them in usable and what we call reusable chunks of space, which means that instead of writing code over and over and over again, we would write a function, put a block of code that would execute that. If we need to do it multiple times, that's good. Instead of writing it multiple times, we write it once, one time, put it in a function, and then call that function whenever we need to. Okay, so this is going to be the first example of that. Now, this is not my code. So this is some creative thievery out there, but it's an overused program that's out there. It's on GitHub. It's on various other YouTube channels and various other places on the net. So um, I'm going to post its publication where it came from. It came from a published book called Learn to Write Code with Python by Writing Computer Games. So this is just one of those elements. I'm not going to go research it on GitHub. I know it is on GitHub, but for whatever reason, if you want to go look for it, you can. So it's actually in two different formats. One is kind of a space format, and one of them is like a Dungeons and Dragons format. So this one I have in front of you, even though it says dragon_game.py, it actually reads as the space adventure format. Okay. And if you are familiar with Phineas and Ferb from Disney Channel or Disney Plus or Disney Channel, now I used to watch that, gosh, 10 years ago with my son, and now I'm watching it again with my daughter, who is now 10. And so I know it still exists out there. So this is like Perry the Platypus. There's a lot going on here, but really it's not doing a whole lot. It's not doing much. It's a platypus. He's not doing much. There's a lot going on here in the program. There's a lot written. It's just not doing much. Okay. So we have talked about the use of the random module and the time module. So I'm not going to review that here. We'll see it executes. But what I do want to show you up front is the three functions, but I'm not going to talk about that up first. I want to show you them here. First, there's display intro, there's the choose path, and then there's the check path function. But they don't execute until you get all the way down here in this while loop, okay? So we said before that a while loop always executes as long as the condition that it is evaluating is true, okay? So initially in this program, the play again variable is true. So there's a string that says yes. And so play again is yes. So this is evaluating to while play again is yes or play again is y. So initially play again is yes. So this and this is true. As long as it's true, execute this code at least once. So what happens with the code? It's going to do 1, 2, 3, and then 4 things. So it's going to run the display intro function. Okay, and these parentheses are saying it's a function. So we already saw that. It's way up here. There's my display intro function. After it runs that, it's going to come down here to the choose path function. Now, choose path is not over here on the left. It's actually over here on the right. It's on the right side of the assignment equation or equal sign, meaning that it's going to pass a variable or a value to the variable choice. Okay, and what do I mean by that? So if I go back up here to choose path, it's going to return a value. Okay, so whatever goes on up here will be stored in path, and path will be returned. It's going to be given back to the program. And I will talk about that over and over and over again till you really understand it, because that's one of the essential elements that's really going to that's going to bridge you from like the beginner level of programmer to an advanced or at least an intermediate level programmer. That's one of the elements that you really have to get. So what happens is that the code block will execute and then have a value, and then that value is given back to the program. And that value is actually given back, oops, sorry, given back and then stored in this variable called choice, okay? And then what happens here is that choice is passed to the next function, okay? It's placed in as an argument or a parameter. The function actually requires a parameter, or what we call an argument. Again, all these concepts will be talked about in future videos, but as you can see, there is a argument or a parameter for this function. So it's needing something, it's needing a value in order to execute all of this stuff, okay? And so we'll take a look at that. So whatever happens here is going to be passed to here, be stored right here as in chosen path, okay? And down here it says if chosen path. So this, whatever this is going to be right here, and it's going to be evaluated. Okay, so we're going to take a look at that. But before we do that, let's go back to the while loop. So the while loop says, okay, after this executes, come back to the while loop and go to the next line. And then the next line is an input statement. Do you want to play again? Okay, so what essentially is going on here? So the adventure, and this is a basic adventure module, this is about going into space or coming home, and on your trip home, your path leads either one, home, or you get burst with gamma rays, and you make the decision. But you really don't get to make the decision, oh, do I want to live or do I want to die? That's actually a random encounter. Where does the random encounter occur? It occurs here. So you get to choose one or two, and that is what's given as my variable that's passed to this path variable, okay, and gets returned to here. So we saw that down here. I run the function. I pass the value of the variable to choice. Choice gets passed to check path and is evaluated down here. So that's a lot of things going on, but then that's it, okay? So once that happens and this function then is executing, it's going to do two things. You head down the path, pause for 2 seconds. There's an asteroid nearby that looks familiar, but that must be a good sign. Pause for 2 seconds. Your skin begins to tingle. Pause for 2 seconds. Now what happens? The random module executes. So up here is random int, 1 or 2. So 1 or 2 is determined by the computer, and that value gets passed to correct path. Okay, so you chose a path, 1 or 2. Then that gets put here and converted to a string. Okay, and if they are the same, if you chose a 1 and the computer chose a 1, if they are the same, it doesn't matter if they're the same. The tingling was just a feeling of admiration from the citizens, and you make it home. If they are not the same, if you chose a 1 and the computer chose a 2, or the other way around, you die. Okay, and that's it. So like I said, there's a lot going on here, but there really isn't. There really isn't. So you either live, you get to go home, or you're evaporated by gamma rays. And then the program says, hey, do you want to play again? And that's it. So that's a whole lot. Let's see it execute. And I've never won this game. And so I'll work with the two and we'll see what happens. So, like I said, an extremely energetic burst of gamma rays pass through you, causing all of the atoms in your body to disassociate. There's no record left of your existence. No, I don't want to play again. So, like I said, I've never won, and I guess I'm just not that lucky. But this is a good movement forward because from now on, we'll be talking about using functions and breaking down big pieces of code into reusable chunks. And with that, I'll see you next time.